Tonight on News 3 New Mexico, Eastern New Mexico University is mourning the loss of a former football coach.
And I'll tell you what you can expect the rest of this week in my full weather forecast.
As well as today's Health Minute in sports with Lakeisha Griffin. It's Thursday, December 4th, and News 3 New Mexico begins right now.
This is News 3 New Mexico, your local source for news, sports, and first weather.
Good evening, I'm Kennedy Catano.
And I'm Cheyenne Cope. We begin our broadcast tonight with sad news for Eastern New Mexico University. The university lost a member of its coaching fraternity Wednesday morning as former head coach Jack Scott died in Lubbock of renal failure at the age of 85. Earlier today, athletic director Jeff Geiser spoke about the coach, his legacy here at Eastern.
Coach Scott's legacy, though, is manifested in his players, his young men that he coached, because I don't know if I've ever known a coach who's more loved by his ex-players. And to me, that is the true compliment of a coach.
Scott was the 8th coach in the history of the Greyhound football program. Scott coached from 1970 to 1977. He inherited a 1-9 squad and went 40 to 41 and 2 over 8 years with 4 consecutive winning seasons from 1973 to 1976. He remains 5th in the Greyhound program in career wins.
State health officials say New Mexico has its first confirmed case of measles since February 2012. The Department of Health says the case involves a 1-year-old Rio Arriba County child who has not been immunized against the disease. Health Secretary Rita Ward says the department is working with the child's family and the hospital that treated the child to identify people who may have been exposed to the disease. Measles is highly contagious and is easily transmitted person to person via droplets or through the air. Early symptoms include red eyes, fever, runny nose, and cough. The city of Albuquerque announced this week that local NAACP leader Harold Bailey has been hired to help with upcoming changes in the city's troubled police, but some advocates are criticizing the move. Jewel Hall, president of Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Center and a police critic, says Bailey sold his soul since others have been asking to be more engaged with reform efforts. She and other critics have complained that they were not involved in negotiations over a U.S. Justice Department agreement to reform the city's police agency.
And New Mexico senators were successful in getting some important New Mexico projects funded by Congress, which includes a transition of the Valles Caldera National Preserve on new management, allowing for more public access. The Valles Caldera is home to one of the country's largest elk herds and is plush with other wildlife. But right now it's very hard for members of the public to get in. This project, along with many others, are part of the National Defense Authorization Act, which was finalized by Congress Tuesday night. And now let's Zach Self, who has your first look at weather. What's going on out there, Zach?
Thanks, Cheyenne. Things felt a bit cooler outside today, even though today's highs were in the upper 50s and low 60s. This was because we had a little bit of moisture moving through the state. As we head into tonight for parts of eastern New Mexico, there is still a 10% chance of showers. As far as our temperatures the next several days, tomorrow the highs will be in the mid to upper 60s, with things cooling off slightly on Saturday with your daytime highs in the mid to upper 50s. This has been your first look at weather. Stay tuned later in the show as we take a look at your full weather forecast. But for right now, let's get back to the news desk.
Thanks, Zach. St. Louis Rams tight end Jared Cook says he received death threats for the hands up, don't shoot gesture he and 4 other teammates did before last week's game.
Have you received a lot of threats?
Absolutely.
Are you getting extra security?
No, I don't think so.
Threats as in like sarcasm or actual like threats of harm?
I mean, it's all on the computer. I mean, how can you really tell if somebody's typing keys, you know?
The hands-up gesture was adopted by protesters of the shooting death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. Cook argues hands up, don't shoot is not a Ferguson thing, it's a worldwide thing, and says he would have done it again, no problem.
President Obama is once again promising to make changes to the criminal justice system. After a grand jury decided not to indict an officer in the chokehold death of Eric Garner, but after Ferguson and now New York City, the White House knows all too well patience is wearing thin. Jim Acosta reports.
Sensing a crisis that is growing, President Obama waited just a few hours to weigh in after the decision was announced not to indict a New York City police officer in the chokehold death of Eric Garner.
When anybody in this country is not being treated equally under the law, that's a problem.
With emotions already raw across the country after the unrest in Ferguson, the president tried to strike a balance, recognizing the important work of law enforcement while insisting the justice system must change.
I'm not interested in talk, I'm interested in action, and I am absolutely committed as President of the United States to making sure that we have a country in which everybody believes in the core principle that we are equal under the law.
Attorney General Eric Holder, who will be visiting 5 more U.S. cities to meet with civil rights leaders on the issue, said the Justice Department is investigating the Garner case.
All lives must be valued. All lives.
Adding more pressure on the administration, the U.S. attorney overseeing the chokehold investigation also happens to be the woman tapped to replace Holder, Loretta Lynch.
Our prosecutors will conduct an independent, thorough, fair, and expeditious investigation.
On Capitol Hill, members of the Congressional Black Caucus are insisting the president cannot tackle the problem alone.
I do hope that the Department of Justice gives Americans an opportunity to take this cancer and cut it out once and for all.
On the streets of the nation's capital, there was a different kind of gridlock as protesters snarled traffic to send a message.
I'm sorry these people over here are inconvenienced, but it's inconvenient to get shot in the street. It's inconvenient to get choked on videotape. It's inconvenient to have no justice.
President Obama says he wants to move quickly to start rebuilding trust in law enforcement in minority communities. He's calling on his new 21st Century Police Tasking Force, launched on Monday, to issue its recommendations in less than 90 days.
And Texas, along with 16 other states, is suing to stop President Obama's executive action on immigration. It comes about 2 weeks after the president announced the action, which includes stopping deportation for parents of U.S. citizens. Yesterday, Texas Attorney General and Governor-elect Greg Abbott said that the executive order issued by President Obama, as well as the orders issued by the federal agencies to fulfill the president's executive order, are illegal. All but 2 of the states included in the lawsuit have Republican governors.
Don't go anywhere. We'll have your full look at weather after the break.
But first, here's a look at today's financial markets.